Well, they didn't win, but what an impression they made. The BAR Honda team, John Button and Jensen's fiancée Louise, enjoying their weekend here immensely. And we go straight to the press conference.
And scoring his 4th straight win for Scuderia Ferrari Marlboro, Michael Schumacher. Michael, today you gave the Ferrari fans what they expected, but an interesting first few laps. First with Juan Pablo on the first lap, and then that chase of Jensen.
Yeah, absolutely. It was mind-blowing what Jensen put up in front. I mean, I just told him I thought it was raining in front of me, and it was dry for him. I mean, he was just disappearing into the nowhere, and I was really wondering. It took quite a few laps till everything got going, and we got up to temperature, and were able to chase. And then his first stint was really quick. I mean, I saw the lap times low 21s. He was able to pull, and I thought that's going to be a very, very busy and tough afternoon. Luckily, whatever happened, we sort of kept our pace, and they dropped off a little bit from that initial pace.
It was a very exciting opening lap, quite a lot of incidents going on there, as you predicted. What was it like from your point of view there, going into the chicane, coming out of Tosa?
Well, it was very slippery on my side, and I was fighting with Juan. It was a bit difficult to keep him behind me. And obviously, I wanted to avoid him getting by, because I knew I was going to get faster once the first couple of laps get going. And I wanted to stay in touch with Jensen, because that was the crucial point, and we were able to.
Well, it turns out we now know you qualified with a bit more fuel on board. You stopped 2 laps later than Jensen at that first stop. Do you think that was critical?
I don't think it is important. I think he put a very good lap in, Jensen. I didn't, and that is the end of the result. He deserved the pole position, and I deserved the second position.
Well, congratulations and thank you. Jensen, you led the San Marino Grand Prix. Just describe that, first of all, those opening laps.
Well, the first lap was a fantastic feeling. I was really wringing in the neck of the car. I wanted to get a good gap on the first lap, and it worked. And then my pace in the first stint, I was very happy with. It was when we got out on new tyres after we refueled. I seemed to struggle a little bit compared to Michael.
Well, you said you struggled compared with Michael, but the difference between you and the rest of the Michelin runners was night and day. How good was the car today? Was it perfect from your point of view? No. I mean, in a race, it's very difficult to have a perfect car. It seems windier today, and the car was a little bit twitchier than what we expected. So it was a little bit tough to drive, but you know, even with those problems, the pace was still very good. A great result, your best ever result, of course. Juan Pablo, again, let's have that first lap from your point of view.
Well, you know, Michael had a poor start. He was slow out of the first chicane, basically out of the first, out of turn 2 or 3. I went to pass him, he closed the door on me, I had to back off. Then he did the same out of the next corner and closed the door, so I went for the inside, and I'm coming out beside him, and the next thing I see is just coming straight at me, hits me and puts me in the grass. So it's very disappointing to see racing like that, but I'll be surprised if he gets away with it. But that's up to the FIA, really. Well,
as you say, yes, it is up to the FIA. Was there any damage to your car? You say there was contact.
No. Just hit me hard enough to put me in the grass. So it's a bit disappointing, but I thought I could have had him there.
And then a race up the hill with your teammate, Ralf Schumacher.
Yeah, I came into the track and I saw him. I had to close the door, and I had enough momentum just to keep in front of him.
And Jensen's pace?
I couldn't believe it. The first lap, he was like on rails. He was unbelievable. And I knew we did, I knew what pace we could do, and we did. And we were a bit surprised by their pace, really. It's nothing to do, really. The car's just not quick enough.
Thank you. Michael, you've heard a little bit of what Juan Pablo said, but let's talk about the day from your point of view. Just reflect a little bit on this San Marino Grand Prix, what it means to you, your 4th straight win here, and obviously a great win for Ferrari and an emotional weekend.
Absolutely. It's on top emotional because I'm the ambassador of the San Marino Grand Prix and state, and it's a home Grand Prix in the pocket where I was able to really excite all our supporters, tifosi, who outside, this emotion was going on there is really fantastic. It's just a dream come true, honestly, to come home after a successful first 3 races and deliver a dream result with exception of qualifying for the final.
Thank you.
German with
Congratulations,
an Italian heart delivering for the Tifosi. Michael Schumacher, 4 wins out of 4, 100% record so far. But when you blow Michael Schumacher's mind, you know you have arrived. Jenson Button 2nd place, Montoya 3rd, then the 2 Renaults. They have scored at every Grand Prix so far. Barrichello caught up in traffic, 6th place. He won't be happy with that. Ralf Schumacher facing a Stewards Investigation for the 2nd Grand Prix running. And Alleluia, the first point of the season for Kimi Räikkönen. After 4 rounds, 40 out of 40, 4 out of 4 for Michael Schumacher, 5 in the last 6 here, and honing down on that record, 11 victories a couple of years ago. Barrichello, 2nd Ferrari driver on 24. Button right behind Rubens Barrichello, just a point behind. Montoya is 4th on 18. Alonso 5th. Trulli 6th, just a point behind as well. Ralf Schumacher not in double figures. Sato, whose engine blew today, with 4 points, and David Coulthard 4 for McLaren. Now what's coming here, the constructors, Ferrari twice as many points as everyone else. 64 place, 31, then BAR in 3rd place, excellent for them. Neck and neck with Williams. McLaren have just 5 points, and Sauber and Jaguar have just the 1. Well, let's discuss the race now, shall we, with Tony Jardine. I think Jenson explained there really why he dropped off in pace after those first 9 laps. He said the BAR felt a little bit twitchy, bit of wind around.
Yeah, but I also think they knew the pace of the Ferrari as well. You heard David Richards saying later on that they turned the engine down a little bit, and I firmly believe they've got a plan. It's just as BAR Honda have this 5-year plan. They're 3 years into it. 2nd was what they were really aiming for. I don't think realistically they thought they could win today, and they wanted to maintain that 2nd place as well and be sure of it, and it was a fabulous incremental result.
We all wondered how Jenson Button would fare at the start of the race. Would he handle the pressure? Would he hack it? His start was absolutely impeccable.
That was like his qualifying, Jim, to be honest. He never put a wheel wrong, and that was a very, very impressive situation in his start, because, you know, we said he has to be composed, he has to be cool. Remember, we're back to a manual start now. He's got to release the lever, even though then electronically it all goes into gear. Look, he got away beautifully cleanly, and the pack behind are all over the place. There's Jenson riding over the curves. You saw Coulthard shooting off down the inside there, and already Jenson Button is away, and the rest of them, and that is Coulthard there, hitting the back of Alonso, losing his front wing and going off. Now you're looking from Schumacher, who's on the dirty side of the grid, moving across, which he's allowed to do the one move and blocking very nicely. But it was a great start from Jenson, and 10 out of 10 for that.
Absolutely. Now, Michael and Juan Pablo Montoya, just listening to the Colombian in the press conference there, he's upset about what happened between him and Michael, and I'm interested to get your views on it. He says, oh, the FIA should have a look at this. Well,
it was a classic Mike movie. At least you know with Michael what you're going to get. Yes, it's the hard man of motor racing. Look, he's blocking him out quite legitimately and keeping him on the outside. He's got the racing line there. They're wheel to wheel, and it puts Juan Pablo Montoya off the dirty side. And then you saw Ralph coming up the inside and having to go up the grass as well. Ralph wouldn't have liked that, because when those two tangled last time in Australia, Ralph said, if he does that again to me, I'm going to run him off the road.
I'm not sure the pictures there actually helped you sort that one out too much, Tony, to be fair to you. And now let's have a look at an incident in the pits. Lots of incidents in the pits here, weren't there today? Very tight area down there, and a very, very close thing between Rubens and Ralf Schumacher again.
Well, again, it is much more confined. As you say, it is an older circuit. It's much narrower in there, and it's very, very dangerous place when you're working down there, as I know when I was leading the crews with Brabham and McLaren. And look at this, when they're coming in, there's Barrichello. Now, this is a battle of the pit crews together. Who's going to get away first? There's Ralph, and there's Barrichello, and just there at the last minute comes out in front of him. And that is reversed, because it was Rubens Barrichello and Ferrari who were fined $10,000 for doing the same thing to Trulli at the Bahrain Grand Prix. But here, this time, that's very, very marginal indeed.
OK, let's have a word with Ferrari boss Ross Brawn, the man who's in charge of all the tactics, and he's chatting to Ted Kravitz.
Ross, it was quite easy in the end, but Jenson made you work in the first stint, didn't he?
Yeah, and of course you don't know what fuel people have got on board, so you could see in the first few laps, until our tyres came up to temperature, you had that situation where Michelin's were there straight away and Bridgestone's took a little while to come in. But when the tyre came in, it was fantastic. We just had to be patient the first couple of laps. And then hang on to Jenson and hope that he was going to stop before we did. And when he did, Michael did 2 stunning laps. And then it was just a question of following everyone else's strategy and pretty straightforward race for Michael.
Because Jensen had some long stops. Did you have a nasty feeling he might switch to a 2?
Not really, it was a bit odd. I mean, the first stop was much longer. I mean, our prediction for him to come in and refuel was much later than that, so we're not sure what they're up to. We didn't think a 2 was viable, but it certainly looked like a 3 with a very long middle.
And Rubens' race and the incident in the pit stop, are you going to be complaining about that, what Williams did?
We'll ask the FIA to judge it, because you know, we were told after a Trilly incident that no driver must have to take avoiding action in the pit lane, and quite clearly Rubens did, and that spoiled the rest of his race. If it got in front of Ralph at that stage, then we might have been talking about a different situation. So you know, we need to know whether the pit lane is a free-for-all or whether it's going to be controlled. And if it's going to be controlled, then the FIA need to look at that incident. But it's tough business for one.
Well done, Ross.
It is a tough business, a fair bit of toing and froing we've seen there between Ferrari and BMW Williams. We will be right back to wrap up our coverage of the San Marino Grand Prix. Schumacher has won the San Marino Grand Prix. A younger brother, Ralph, is going to be investigated by the stewards once again for the second Grand Prix running as well, Tony.
Well, it's funny how Ralf Schumacher always seems to be involved in these incidents. Malaysia, it was with Webber, then he was tagging with Sato and Bahrain, and here we are again. But this one very much looks like, to me, Alonso down the inside of Tosa there, and there's no way that Ralph could see him from there with the high shoulders of the car. And I would suggest, from my point of view, that was definitely Fernando Alonso's point of view. Now, Fernando got very upset in the last race with Mark Webber, and Mark had been getting confused messages and suddenly darted in front of him. Mark apologised after that, but Ralph has been very erratic. Ralph doesn't have a great awareness on the circuit. I'll put that one down to Alonso, I'm afraid.
OK, well, let us find out what Fernando made of that incident.
Well, Fernando's 6th at the start, 4th at the finish, not a bad result.
No, you know, I was in the traffic a little bit the first part of the race, and then thanks to the strategy I overtook some places, and 5 points are okay for the team and for me.
Any issues for you during the race, or did it all go quite smoothly?
No, well, we fight a lot with the car. The balance of the car was not perfect in the whole race, and also the traffic. You know, I was fighting with Barrichello and Ralph for the whole race, and it was a tough one.
Just tell us about that battle with Ralph towards the end of the race.
Yeah, well, he had a little mistake in the corner before. I tried to overtake him. He closed the door, and unfortunately we touched each other. We finished the race both, and it's okay. It was a good thing to see on TV, I think.
Were you confident that he could see you when you came through on the inside, or did you just think, well, it's there, I'm going to go for it?
Well, I think he saw me, because this is not the normal line we took when we do the normal corner, and yeah, he closed the door, maybe in a bad way, probably.
He left the door open, I went for it. That's Alonso's view on that. I think we can categorically say the reason for Takuma Sato's Grand Prix ending, and nobody else involved in that, and just an engine blow. And we worried very, very much at the time it could have been Jenson Button in that cloud there, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, it always happens for the number 2 driver. You can imagine that the signals go straight away to the driver who's still out there and worried about the particular engine. Now, the great thing about Honda is they know that they've been developing over the years now to get this engine as powerful as it is, as powerful, they say now, as a Ferrari engine. It's smaller, it's shorter, it's lighter. They've given the team a lower centre of gravity. That's what happens when you're pushing the corners of the envelope, and that's what's happened with Mercedes and Ilmor as well, but they don't have the reliability that Honda have had. Great shame for Sato, but he's done a fabulous job this year, Sato.
He's a great number 2 to Jenson Button, I think, Takuma Sato. A lot of people out there would have tuned in hoping to see Jenson Button win. He came second. I don't think they should be too disappointed.
I think Jenson has covered himself in glory. To have 2 third places and then to go up to the 2nd place on the podium is absolutely the right way to go, and it's part of the BAR plan. They're going to Spain next, where they've done a lot of testing, where they smashed the lap records during the winter. They've had the concept car on the go, which is the bits of the back end of the 04 car with the 03 chassis. They've built this new car with Jeff Willis and all the new aerodynamics on it, and it is now the pretender to the throne. It is threatening the Ferrari. That's the fact of the matter. Where is McLaren?
I think
Where are Williams?
just finally the best thing from my point of view was BAR and Button up there with Schumacher.
Absolutely. And Schumacher was looking at the timesheets right from Friday when BAR were 1-2.
Okay, Tony, thank you very much indeed. Thanks to Minardi for looking after us so well this weekend. And we have more from Imola in our highlight show at 11:45 tonight. You can catch the speed ITV2 at 7 tomorrow evening. Next Sunday at 2, be sure to get your rush of speed.
On next week's Speed Sunday, we will park our motorhome on a small screen near you. With the F1 caravan in Europe, we'll give the teams the Spanish Inquisition as Barcelona beckons. No caravans at the touring cars. It's intense bumper-to-bumper tin-top action from round 2 at Brands. We'll park up at Imola to catch the start of another fascinating Formula 3000 season and circle the wagons in cowboy country for NASCAR thrills and spills from the States. Plus, you and a friend could win VIP days out at Silverstone in our latest competition. All that plus big-name guests, your texts and a lively studio audience. So join me and Lee Mackenzie around the Speed Sunday campfire next weekend. 2 o'clock next Sunday. We'll see you then.
And in a fortnight, we have Fernando Alonso's home race, the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. Qualifying live 12:30 and the race live 12:05. Highlights at midnight. Well done, Jensen. You'll be a winner down the line. Bye-bye for now.